Hello and welcome to this, our feature match area in round 6 of Grand Prix Prague. And, well, you can see there we've got some pretty high-powered players in our feature match area. Brian Brown-Duin, he won the World Championship this year off the back of being the GP Master. But Martin User has a reasonable claim to the lifetime GP Master. He's had such phenomenal success at GPs over the years. Up against it here, though, looks like Brown-Duin already kicking things off pretty early with his blue-white deck. And Ether Poisoner coming down for User. He'll be able to block on the ground just fine, but blue-white known for having a lot of flyers.
Yeah, there's a lot of commons that give you flying, and Ether Swooper is actually a really important card because it comes down fairly early, gives you some energy to work with, and the servers can really have a lot of good uses, either for improvise or to give you those blockers that you need so that your flyers can race against your opponent.
Girpur Osprey, the next play for Brown-Duin, and that will mean that he can continue the air assault. Meanwhile, Implement of Ferocity at some point will mean that User does have the opportunity to pump his team a little bit, draw a card in the process. But right now, his card's not matching up so well against those of the world champion.
Yeah, I mean, Brian had a very good start, and that's also part of the power of the Ether Swooper. Martin can still make his Poisoner a 2/2 and attack, but it would not be a very, very strong turn, especially if he wouldn't have any other play. And as you can see, he doesn't really need the land. He has plenty of lands. But I think he might just have a Night Market Guard.
There's a Renegade Freighter in hand as well for Martin User, which might be tempting if you can find appropriate things to crew it in future turns. For now, getting stuck in for a single point.
Yeah, maybe Brian might want to trade with the servo. That's what I would do. So does the world champ. It's good to know that the world champ is making the same decisions as you would. It's very reassuring.
Feels nice. Renegade Freighter coming along for Martin User here. The original murder train coming down. It's going to need 2 points of power to crew it, but if you can do so, it attacks for an awful lot of damage.
Oh, I love the freighter. It's one of my favorite cards. It seems just a little too good to be at common, but it's one of the cards that is just insanely hard to race.
Yeah, in Triple Kaladesh draft, I made a list of cards that I would be happy to pick over it in total in the entire format, and it was not a very long list.
Let's see. Okay, Glimmer of Genius main phase from Brian Brown-Duin. I think he might be digging. He found 2 spells. Looks like one of them is Windkin Raiders. He's servo-less after that trade with the Poisoner, so he might want to put that on the bottom, and I think he did.
Yeah, when you see card drawing at this stage in the turn, when it could be played at instant speed, it kind of signals that you may need the extra land, that you want to hit it so you don't miss a land drop. Ether Swooper coming in, making another servo.
Yeah, that was the point of playing the Glimmer of Genius, because he wanted to get that servo with that Ether Swooper after drawing 2 cards. It's developing pretty nicely for Brian. Those flyers will be pecking in over and over again, and Martin's cards are not that great, but like it's a creature that can get into a train, right?
Absolutely, it is. You don't necessarily see loads of the Picata Club security in Kaladesh Limited even, but here it's doing what it needs to do, which is keeping that train on and running.
Yeah, I mean, the card's not bad. 4 mana, 3/4. It just seemed that Triple Kaladesh was a lot about synergy, and it's not really an artifact. Didn't really play out into many other synergies. So people just didn't want to run it. But like in Seal Deck, it's a perfectly fine card.
But there is then a Renegade Freighter. We can see it. Every time it attacks, it's getting +1/+1 and trample until the end of turn. As a 5/4 trampler for 3 mana is just a fantastic bargain. Right now, the race, in terms of damage output, in favor of Martin User, but the big question is how long can he continue to hit through when Brian is always going to be able to attack unimpeded.
Yeah, and this is an interesting spot, because the Renegade phase, when it attacks, it's a 5/4. The Bastion Mastodon is a 4/5, so they could trade. But Martin could actually decide to go with the Implement of Ferocity to put the counter on the vehicle itself, which might be a little risky if Brian would be able to deal with the creatures. But on the other hand, blue-white usually doesn't have many ways to kill several creatures at once.
So we will see what Martin User wants to do here. That Bastion Mastodon, it does have an activated ability. White mana will give it Vigilance until the end of turn, and that's one that makes racing a bit problematic for opponents.
Yeah. We'll see what else Martin has. I think I see a Sky Skiff in his hand.
Well, Sky Skiff will be fantastic on this board, right?
Yeah, definitely. But that's what he has to be careful about. Yeah, there we go. So he goes with the play I described. So it's going to make his Renegade Freighter a 5/4, but a 6/5 when it attacks to get past the Mastodon. And I'm sure he has some more plays coming up.
I would certainly hope so, because otherwise I'm not sure he's winning this race.
Yeah.
Just 9 points of life now for our world champion. That 18 next to his name indicates that he's currently the 18th ranked player in the world in terms of pro point standings and whatnot. But this is still very early in the season, so plenty of opportunity for that to change just next week at the first Pro Tour of the year.
Martin just played the Augmenting Automaton and a Skyskiff, and I was worried that he wouldn't be able to deploy 2 cards this turn, because I think I saw a Night Market Guard in his hand as well. He only had 4 mana, so he won't be able to cast the Guard and the Skyskiff, but having the Automaton not only allows him to play a creature, but something that can go into the Skyskiff, block either the Osprey or the Ether Swooper. So overall, a pretty good turn for Martin, who now has the initiative firmly on his side.
Yeah, it's amazing how 1, 2, 3 flyer is just the right set of numbers. That means that Brian Brown-Duin's early assault is blunted somewhat.
On the other hand, Brian's still in fairly decent shape with the Mastodon. He doesn't have to attack with his flyers. He can use them defensively as well to double block the Renegade Freighter, for example. Ooh, but no Vigilance, so he certainly has a plan. I'm real curious to see what it is.
Step 1, ice over on the Prague Club security. That's going to make crewing the Renegade Freighter feel a lot more problematic.
Decommission. That's important. So basically disenchant effect, getting rid of the freighter, and now momentum again swinging back on to BBD's side.
Yeah, each of these players on 9 life, decommission, we see it there. With Revolt, you get to gain some life when you destroy an artifact or an enchantment. As it stands, though, that really not the important bit of the card. The life is just kind of a Brucey bonus if you happen to have everything work out your way.
So let's see what Martin can do here, because we know about Night Market Guard, which is not great, and his creatures are actually fairly tiny.
Yeah, ice over there on Prague Club security means that there's not nearly as much going on, but a big removal spell there from user taking down the elephant means that now it's small creatures all around.
I think Martin would have loved to see that a turn sooner.
Yeah, it's a powerful removal spell whenever you find it, the Daring Demolition, but in this case, sorcery speed means that he's using up his entire turn, and it's a turn where he really would have loved to get an extra threat on the board.
Okay, so Spire Patrol from BBD, so that will allow him to tap the Automaton, and it's not going to untap during his untap phase for 1 turn. But at least he can use it to put the Automaton into the Skyskiff.
And he's also going to be able to be doing some pacifying.
I really like Brian's deck. It's I've played a bunch of Sealed with this format. And I've managed to have blue-white flyer archetype several times.
Yeah, but I mean, with the pacification array that he has going on, he is going to be able to make sure that it's difficult for his opponents to really get any big attacks going in.
Yeah, and blue-white is a nice archetype. Yeah, you get so many flyers. You just have to find good ways of actually trying to figure out how to win a game with blue-white. You have to have a solid game plan. And you go with what BBD is doing right now, flyers, and have some annoying stuff. But also one of the other things you can do is also go wide with servos, and a card like Dawnfeather Eagle really shines, especially in this wide canning. And it's a common, and getting servos is fairly easy. So I think both are equally valuable.
So there we see Skyskiff forced to trade off there because Spy Patrol is a 3/2, successfully able to trade in combat. And there is some follow-up from Brown-Duin.
Ooh.
Dovin Ban, okay.
There we go.
Big Planeswalker play there. In terms of the Planeswalkers that we've seen from Kaladesh, possibly not the most powerful, but it's hard to argue with gaining some life, drawing some cards when you do have those blockers, and indeed Pacification Array to stop attacks from the other side of things.
Yeah. I think I saw Martin, Planeswalker in Martin's hand as well. I think I saw Tezzeret.
Interesting. Tezzeret's certainly a powerful one, and yes, it is in hand, but not the blue mana to cast it.
Oh, but he has an Arborback Stomper, which is also a very strong limited card. And but you know, BBD is holding on with the pacification area. But at some point, you know, you can only tap once. If your opponent is making his board bigger, is not going to get it's going to get that much hard to deal with. And BBD is just going aggressively for the cards, not using the plus ability, which I'm surprised about.
I guess that he knows that he has other ways in his deck at least that he can draw into to deal with some of these big tramplers. Trample potentially a bit of a problem for some of these decks because servo's normally something you can rely on to block with. In this case, they're nothing more than a speed bump.
Yeah. He has plenty of lands. Still one more in his hand. Ooh, and he's getting aggressive.
I like this. The champ coming in, getting 3 points of damage through.
What is this, Fumigate? Go. Wow. Interesting. I mean, he still has the pacification array. He can tap down probably the Stomper because it's the biggest creature on the board. And BBD, the blue-white can be very tricksy. There's quite a few cards that can come out from Brian. I saw Leave in the Dust. We saw it last round. Do a lot of work for Eric Froley. And yeah, just Ether Trade wins, Select for Inspection, like the list goes on. And White also has quite a few instances that could be played in combat. So I wonder which one of those Brian has.
Yeah, Leave in the Dust certainly a powerful option. It's incredible when you look back at a card like Repulse, which was the exact same card, only it cost 1 less mana. Leave in the Dust still perfectly serviceable. So user just considering his options here. He's in a strange kind of a race. Elects to go for Dovin Ban with both creatures. This is a safe way of doing things if you really want to get that Planeswalker off the board.
Yeah, another Trixie card is not an instant, but it's a flash creature, Shielded Ether Thief, which gets to block the Automaton, I guess. Yep, and gets 1 energy for his troubles.
And your favorite card, Prophetic Prism, coming down post-combat. And Martin User is probably one of the cards that he likes quite a bit too, because we know that Tezzeret is just sat in his hand waiting to get cast.
Yeah, let me put it this way. I have been sorting my cards since Christmas, and whenever I found a Prophetic Prism, I've set it aside, and it's into very high digits, in the 30s, I think, with Prophetic Prism, because it's been printed over the years, and I just like drafting it, so yeah.
So Tezzeret coming along and immediately using one of the 3 abilities there, taking down that Girapur Osprey.
Yeah.
It's not the Master of Metal. We'll just get that corrected for you on there.
I like this one, but you won't get to see it this weekend. Tezzeret the Schemer is the one where that Martin User just played. And it's again combined so well with Prophetic Prism. I mean, I talked about how awesome Prophetic Prism is in the abstract, but now it just works so well with the Schemer, especially his -2.
Yeah, I mean, you of course do need a few artifacts in play for the minus ability to really kick in, but conveniently enough, Tezzeret will provide them given a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And at 3 remaining loyalty, that just enough to mean that Brian Brown-Duin is not going to be able to immediately take down the new Planeswalker in play. It seems flavorful and appropriate that Tezzeret and Dovin Ban have been in this match, and that Tezzeret is ultimately the one that's hung around for a little longer.
Yeah. Ooh.
A foil confiscation coup here. This a huge play for Brian Brown-Duin, who had the requisite energy to be able to take Arborback Stomper. Yeah. Anytime you get to steal a creature, it's a gigantic swing.
Yeah, and really, Brian, getting the 1 energy from Shielded Ether Thief was so important because it enabled him to do this play. Confiscation Coup only gives you 4 energy. Shielded Ether Thief, the 1 combined together for 5 and stealing the Arborback Stomper. And it always feels good to steal a 5/5 Trampler.
Well, you've basically played a Confiscation Coup to kill your opponent's best creature and cast your opponent's best creature effectively.
Pretty much, yeah. And now Brian also can negate the Lifecraft Cavalry with the Pacification Array, leaving Martin with just the Automaton and Tezzeret. I mean, I'm saying only. It's still a fairly decent board, but it's not that good of a board against the 5/5 Trampler that he just stole.
We're beginning to get a feel for how it is that these players are at 5-0. Of course, they both started on 3 buys, but in addition to being no slouches at Magic the Gathering, they also seem to have some pretty powerful decks here.
Yeah, I mean, being 5-0, being a good player, of course, helps, but we've seen a lot of powerful cards in other decks from other pros as well. Like this format has a lot of bombs So
user getting stuck in here where he can.
interesting attack. Well, this is a little tricky, right? Because the automaton can grow up to be a 3/3, but the shield Ether Thief can block it here. But
The prophetic prism is the extra black mana, so just enough to be able to pump to a full 4/4.
yeah, he even got me. I didn't. I forgot about the prism and. Oh, what's going on with Tezzeret?
I think he's just moving a die so he can read all of the abilities.
He just wants to kill the swooper, I think. Yeah, that was sweet for Martin, getting even more value out of the Frag Prism. And look how he held back on the swamp. He wanted to hide the fact. I think Brian's fine with that trade anyway, because Martin had to spend a big chunk of his turn doing something that didn't really affect the board that much.
Yeah, augmenting automaton. It looks innocuous, but I think all of the automata really quite important, especially for sealed, where you can easily find yourself, as we see for both of these players, with lots of mana, not too many cards in hand to spend it all on, and any kind of an activated ability like that just stacks up really fast. Yeah,
a lot of people were complaining about the Kaladesh format, that it doesn't have many mana sinks, so a lot of the time you flood it out and you had no ways to spend the mana. With Ether Revolt added into the mix, you get the cycle of automatons, and each one of them can enable you to spend a fairly hefty amount of mana to get some sort of effect. And I think players have been very happy about it. And another card which is also good with lots of mana is the Pacification Array, which I think has gone quite a bit under the radar in Limited so far. But the pros already know what's up.
Yeah, if you've got the mana to use it, then effectively you're sort of negating their best creature every single turn. And it does tap artifacts as well. There are a few occasions where locking down artifacts can prove relevant also.
Yeah, and it also helps with improvise, another big keyword. So it just does a lot, and it's very good against vehicles, as we already saw before.
So the player's kind of locked in a bit of a stalemate situation here. That Arborback Stomper, yes, it can get through for a lot of damage, but actually with the amount of lands in play for Martin User, he can fight against it. +4/+4 would be enough to secure the trade there.
Yeah. Will VBD have something to say about that? Ooh.
More uses for the Pacification Array. Quicksmith Spy says that now it has an extra ability, which is tap, draw a card.
Yeah, but now there's a decision for BBD. He won't be able to use the array to tap down things, right? Because he's going to be, he withdrew some cards, and he actually passed. So now he's going to use the Arborback Stomper as a blocker for the Lifecraft Cavalry. Or alternatively, BBD can maybe try to trade with the automaton and takes 4 damage, but then he gets another turn where he will be able to draw 2 cards, and the array is going to stay in play for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, with the Quicksmith Spy, of course, any artifact you can choose to be the one that gets to be tapped to draw a card. If it's an artifact creature, though, it's much, much more vulnerable than something like this Pacification Array.
Yeah.
So User got a few cards in hand himself.
Yeah, one of my favorite uses of Quicksmith Spy is putting it on one of the implements, because you can sack them anyway for an effect. So if your opponent has, especially the one that you can sacrifice an instant speed, if your opponent has a way to deal with it, at least you'll cash them in for something. But otherwise, they as you said, they're not creatures, so it's much harder to get rid of them.
Yeah, ideally you want to deal with the Spy itself.
Yeah. Big attack from Martin here, and BBD has to make a big decision on where he wants to block. He'll be blocking for sure, but it seems like blocking the Lifecraft Cavalry is the safest. It forces Martin to have a trick. On the other hand, blocking the automaton almost makes sure that Martin has to tap out completely. It looks like no blocks.
Well, that means that we could be in for a game that's not going to last too much longer.
Martin has to have something here. Like, he realized he can't just tap out and die on the backswing from the Stomper and the Quicksmith Spy. So
I believe I see a Prey Upon in hand for him.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. He's going to Prey Upon this.
So there's still that Picard's Club security there. Yes, it's been iced over, but that does not mean to say that it can't get in a little fight.
Yeah, and he could have used any of his other creatures to do so, But that's the safest play. If Brian had something to do about it, he would have to deal with a creature just basically useless in the Procada Club security. So he decided against. And there's a Night Market Guard.
It's a great blocker. There's only one creature to block, but
Build to last for the win.
Built to last for the win would be interesting.
What do you have, Brian? He can still draw an extra. I mean, he can put down Martin to 1. He can always just tap out the Night Market Guard and swing with the Stomper, but he just needs that 1 extra damage. And judging by his body language, I don't think he has it. He can draw
Inventor's Goggles, maybe?
He cannot draw a card anymore. He lost the Quicksmith Spy. That is true. He can stay on the defensive still, because he can always tap the Automaton and then try to block the Lifecraft Cavalry. Yeah, we still have a game going on. This is really swingy.
So just a pass there for Brian Brown-Duin. He's going to have to hope that he can weather whatever comes from Martin User this coming turn. User described himself as having the super sleep-in special, in as much as he got to sleep in his own bed and then come along to the GP. He is a local, and he's much more used to having to travel much further to GPs.
Yeah.
So along comes this Automaton, and while it's a 1-1 right now, it can grow very, very large indeed here.
Yeah, I'm still surprised why Brian is not tapping the Automaton. I mean, I understand it that yeah, both are Martins. I mean, I understand why, because he has to spend mana to pump the Automaton. Did he tap enough mana?
I'm not sure if he did tap enough mana though.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he might have just tapped 2 less by mistake, but it's not like he did anything anyway. Now Brian's dropped to 3 from the Night Market Guard. He really needs a card right now. That's a spell. Okay, Metallic Mimic. That can trade with the Night Market Guard at least. But Martin's he just needs to draw something. It might have seen a Fatal Push.
That's the easy bit. Let's tap down your creature, but there's the Fatal Push.
Swing for 3. There it is.
That'll do it. Martin User picking up the first game over Brian Brown-Duin. A little smile there you can see from the Czech player. And almost a wince there coming from the world champion, because he looked in fantastic shape for much of that game, and then it just kind of didn't quite work out for him. But at the end of the first game there, we're going to get a chance to jump across to one of our other games while these players shuffle and sideboard up. Oh, we've actually heard that matches going thick and fast. One of our other matches already completed here in our feature match area. So we will get a chance to see some magic after this match is completed, but we're going to be with these guys as they sideboard, which will be hopefully not too long.
Yeah, we got some really good feature matches in the feature match area, because for those of you who don't know, next week is the Pro Tour in Dublin. And that means that a lot of the big name players came out to play in the GP here in Prague, and I think there were more than 50 people with 3 buys. And to get 3 buys, you need to be either gold, platinum, or Hall of Famer. And more than 50 is a lot.
Yeah, Jeremy Dzani there picking up the win over another player in a Team Hararuya shirt, Petr Sahurek. Petr Sahurek, 24th in the world ranked right now. Dzani, former player of the year, Pro Tour champion. He actually won the Pro Tour in Dublin, which is where we're going to be heading to next weekend. So it'd be good for Dzani to put up some numbers here, get himself feeling really comfortable with the limited formats, such that when we find ourselves at the Pro Tour, he's got a bit of a leg up.
Yeah, I mean, but Petr was on his home turf. I think he wanted to do well here. We've seen it last year, actually. I think on the Legacy GP, Lucas Blahan made the top 8. And I think for him it was like a big part was like vindication, like doing it on your home turf. It's kind of like showing you can, and with all your friends around you. Sometimes even his girlfriend was there as well, you know. So it's really, yeah, I would love to win a GP in my hometown. I think that would make me supremely proud.
Absolutely, it makes sense. It also means that when you want to go out and celebrate afterwards, you know exactly where to go.
And you can still sleep in your own bed, which is nice. So you can get over the hangover on Monday morning.
Also worth pointing out, of course, that part of the reason that we see so many players travelling across to this, I'm going to say local GP prior to the Pro Tour, because it's not actually that far to Dublin from here, is getting acclimatized to time differences.
Oh yeah.
If you're an American player that's coming across to play in the Pro Tour, that's a big time difference. We're talking 4 or 5 hours minimum. And if you're coming from California, say, quite a few more, getting across here good and early, getting adjusted to the time zones before you have the pressures of the Pro Tour. It is the grand stage. It is one of the toughest tournaments to win in Magic. It means that you're just able to hit things fresh. And so the preparation that comes from this GP isn't just about making sure that you're on point with all of the card interactions and you've got your draft strategy prepared. It's making sure that your body's prepared for one of the bigger tournaments of the year.
Yeah. And I actually, as a player, I've been playing on the Pro Tour over the past few years. Well, not anymore, but this is one of the main reasons that people do it, because it's also what we like to call value in a way. Like, you're traveling anyway to a place, might as well play a GP. But the Pantheon team, or rather Team Puzzle Quest, they're actually already in Ireland testing there, deciding to skip the GP because a lot of the pro teams think that it's needlessly taking away 2 days away from testing, and not it's the GPs are nice and all, and you can win pro points, which is important, but you just don't get a quality practice that you would get in a house with your teammates.
You can certainly fit in a lot of games when you don't need to wait for the next round to come up.
Oh, yeah.
But the next games are just kicking things off here, and we see Brian Brown doing with the first player of the game. He's able to get a vehicle on the battlefield, but the Dalcon Blade Master from Martin User means that he's the one that's first got power and toughness that can actually attack.
Yeah, and I think he changed up this deck a little bit there. I think he was black-green in the first game, but now he's blue-green, it seems. Vidalcan Blade Master I don't think he would splash for that one, and look at that Snare Thopter.
Getting stuck in here, Martin User. Meanwhile, Brian Brown doing stuck on all vehicles, no creatures thus far. Ironclad Crusher coming along on his turn 4. As and when he does get creatures, he's got a lot of power and toughness that will be potentially kind of problematic, but in the meantime, he may have to take some big hits here.
He really needs a good creature here, though. That's the problem. I mean, he can use the crew chain, right? He can play a creature with 2 power. Okay, 4/5 is nice. And this, ooh, interesting. He wanted to get in for more damage. He could have also crewed the mobile garrison, attack with the garrison, untap the Bastion Mastodon for defense. But attacking with the Crusher just means you get to deal 6. And I assume next turn Brian can do some fancy footwork with a 3-power creature. Ooh, but
Arborback Stomper, if you're racing, is not the card that you want to see. 5 life for Martin User, gigantic body for Martin User on the battlefield, means that now it's 19-10, and that a real problem for Brian Brown doing.
Yeah, and speaking of racing, I think Martin User has a Baral's expertise in his hand, and if you want to race, getting to bounce 3 creatures or artifacts to your opponent's hand is brutal.
And that's before you worry about being able to play a spell for free.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see if we're going to see it from Martin this turn, because
the flavor text on this one pretty much sums it up. Get out of my way.
Much, yeah.
For now, just Snare Thopter coming in.
Very defensive, I like it.
And Decommission coming along from Brian Brown doing does not want to have that one consistently pecking away in the air.
The fun thing is, like, Martin can now play a different creature than Snare Thopter, and next turn he could play the Baral's Expertise and get to cast the Snare Thopter, which is haste, and maybe already swing for lethal.
So Sage of Shayla's claim there, bringing along 3 energy with it.
Yeah, and he kind of leaves up mana now, maybe, bluffing a counterspell of sorts. Let's see what BBD can actually come up with. He does have a lot of lands. And Martin actually has something to do with his mana.
Yeah, Glimmer of Genius, a nice one. End of turn, get some energy, draw a couple of cards. And it's a scry first, so he gets to make sure that those cards are good ones.
Yeah, his mana line up perfectly this game. Like, he was able to curve out nicely, has options for the mana that he has. And now let's see if he's going to go for the finisher. But I think I think Martin told me about one play that he did in the previous game. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I think he has a Rishkar's expertise in his hands.
There it is, Rishkar's expertise. So that's going to mean he draws 5 cards.
Yes.
And then he gets to play a spell that costs 5 or less from his hand. Now, remind me, how much does Baral's expertise cost?
I think it costs 5. Is he going to go for the kill? And by the way, this all pumps his Vidalcan Blade Master as a side bonus, and Martin's just like, well, I should go for it. The play he did last round was cast Rishkar's expertise, get to cast Baral's expertise off of that, bouncing 3 of his opponent's creatures, and then get to cast a free Tezzeret.
Crikey.
Oh, he's gonna play it slow. He's just gonna go for the Lifecraft Cavalry.
Hard to argue with that one. It's still a gigantic threat that he's got to get on the battlefield on the same turn that he drew 5 additional cards.
He's in great shape. He's probably waiting for Brian to commit something else to the board first. Like playing into that much open mana can be a little risky. Dovin Ban, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, Martin User currently sat with the earth and everything on it in his hand, plus a battlefield that looks pretty imposing.
Yeah. I mean, you could say when you're watching, like, why is Martin User playing it this slow? He could have won ages ago, but now now with Brian tapped out, now Martin can be safe in knowing that Brian is very unlikely to have something for 1 white mana. There are actually very few tricks that do something. We mentioned build to last game. Maybe alley evasion could be something that can come up. Bounces either your guy or gives something +1/+2, but again, it doesn't seem that relevant on this board, and I think Martin's going to go for it here. But he's counting because Brian did gain some life back with that Dolan Bond, so he might not have lethal just yet. And remember, the vehicles are a little annoying in this regard. That like Baral's expertise can bounce creatures or artifacts, so. Like Brian's always going to have at least 1 creature left in battlefield just because of how vehicles work.
All right, Baral's expertise is targeting so far 2 creatures.
Okay, does he know that he can bounce artifacts as well? I think he might have forgotten about that.
Content to get...
Okay. Leaving dust for free. Bounce the Crusher.
And draw a card.
And draw a card, yeah. As if that wasn't enough.
Yeah, Baral's expertise doing a lot. I would not be surprised if we saw a little bit of expertise at the Pro Tour in Constructed.
Yeah, the card is powerful, and you can also return some of your stuff, which is always nice. If you need it, something that draws you cards, for example. Yeah, so just chump blocking the Vidalcan Blade Master, taking way too much, and I think Brian's gonna. I think Brian's on to 1. Yeah, like Fumigate.
I mean, even Fumigate. There's a Renegade Freighter on the battlefield. Yeah, any creature is likely to be able to crew it.
Yeah, but Brian gets 2 life now from the Dovin Bond, draws a card, not enough.
Martin User taking down the world champion there at 2-0, advancing to 6-0 on his day, and. Little smiles there from User, successfully able to navigate those waters. Got a chance to watch him playing earlier on, and he's having a blast here in Prague.
Oh yeah, of course. And he is also, you know, the good thing is Martin can actually host his foreign friends, you know. When he was traveling around the world for GPs, he stayed in places of friends or friends of friends, and now he can return the favor of sorts and invite some people over to his place.
So that's the end of our main match here. We will have some more Magic for you in our Time Warp match soon enough. But before that, just a few messages. Hello and welcome back. This is Tim Willoughby along with Matej Big Z Zadelkai for some turbo magic here at Grand Prix Prague. An extra match for you from round 6. On the left of our screen we have Alexander Hein, face-to-face games up against Filip Samoreda. And we'll get a chance to see what they brought to the table here in this Ether Revolt Kaladesh sealed deck.
Hey, good pronunciation there, Tim. Respect. I didn't expect it.
I'll take it. We got an Ether Poisoner coming down for Hein here.
Not the best blocker for Samoreda with the Aegis Automaton. We've been practicing that pronunciation for the whole day.
I mean, it's tough to block any creature with Death Touch. Hein here getting stuck in. There's some interesting things that the Automaton can do.
Nice. So, interestingly enough, Alexander Hein actually declined to make a servo because it would probably be pretty useless in the face of that Automaton. But he plays Deadlock Trap, so now that gives him more bullets to tap down stuff if he needs it.
Yeah, 4 taps at least so far, and blue certainly able to still create quite a lot more energy. He's got some nice plays lined up in the future, I would imagine. But green-white, one of the kind of interesting color combinations, I think, in this limited format, because in some respects, what it's doing is pretty straightforward. It's just making guys and lots of them and potentially quite large creatures. But the card quality is potentially so high doing that plan that I'm not surprised at all to see Samoreda at 5-0.
Yeah. There's an Ether Herder. Decent enough creature, but I don't think it's that great on this board just yet.
Yeah, Dakara P-Foul will potentially be able to just fly on over that one if Hein chooses to expend a little bit of blue mana to make that happen.
Yeah, there's one thing I have to say. I love watching Alexander Hein play. Like, just the way he moves his cards around is so crisp. It's very satisfying to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of economy of motion there. He's not necessarily flicking cards around in his hand too much. He's simply purposefully playing out cards as and when he needs to and making sure that he gets the job done.
Yeah, Night Market Aeronaut now from Alex.
Yeah, 2/2 flyer. With Revolt it becomes a 3/3, but even just as a 2/2, it's perfectly serviceable for 4 mana.
It's more flyers. It looks like that as Alex's plan, and denies the attack from the Ether Herder with a Deadlock Trap. And look at that, Filip Samoreda did draw a blue source, but passes the turn, which is either means one thing. It's either good or bad. Either Samoreda really has nothing, or he has something up his sleeve.
I'm glad that we've narrowed it down there.
Yeah, of course. No, but it's never in the middle, right? It's always like really good or really bad, or most of the time.
All right, so Alexander Hein here, considering his options, the winner of Pro Tour Barcelona. Pretty formidable looking board, just the 1 black mana available to him thus far, so that may hamper some of his ability to play cards in hand, but with a few cards in hand to work with, I would assume that there's something that we're going to see here from him. That number 19 next to Alexander Hein's does indicate that he is one of our top 25 ranked players, which going into the Pro Tour means that he's certainly a player to watch.
Yeah, and remember, Alexander Hein is one of the players who actually has won a Pro Tour, but his only Pro Tour top 8 came at that Pro Tour, and I think it's one of the things he's really chasing, and he wants to do well, because he has the respect of a lot of pros for his play skill, but he just didn't convert a second time at the PTC just yet.
Impeccable timings, able to take out one of those flyers there, and Consulate Skygate means that suggests to me that Alexander Hein's deck is looking to hit the late game.
Well, blue-black usually lends itself to a more defensive game plan. Ooh.
All right, so we have some expertise going on here. Not too much power on the battlefield for Filip Samoreda, only drawing 3 cards. We saw Martin User drawing 5 with it earlier on, but he is now going to get to cast another spell with a cost 5 or less from his hand without having to pay its mana cost.
Yeah, and they'll find something.
I think of the expertises, this is one of the ones that gets me kind of excited, because with some of the others, you don't necessarily get to play that free card.
Sure.
This one, you need to be pretty unlucky for that to be the case, because it draws you cards.
Yeah. I actually had it in my pre-release, and it was great. I played the Rich Card Expertise, drew 4 cards, and then put a Rich Skill Tusker into play. My opponent was not amused. But here's just the Ether Stream Leopard from Filip Samoreda. Just fine, but also not really that impressive.
Yeah, I think he may have missed gaining an energy on that one. It does come into play and give you 1 energy, which can then be used to make trample.
Now he remembers. Let's see what Alex says. Yeah. They'll go back. It looks
A little awkward there because I mean it's a pretty clear pass, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, and they've agreed that it was too late. Philip already attacked, and you can always forget about the trigger, and they've agreed that is what happened.
Ether Poisoner jumping in the way of the 3-3, and that leaving Philip Sommereda without too much of a board to worry about just yet.
I'm wondering what Philip Sommereda is planning to do with the Watchful Automaton now from Alex Hain, and he'll start the Scry engine. But Philip Sommereda showed Aegis Automaton, and he also has a shielded Ether Thief in hand and Constant Skyith. His creatures are very defensive, so I think he has to have some big top end. Another quite defensive creature in Shipwreck Moray. So I really wondering, like, where is the Philip's deck heading? At 5-0, he must have something.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Rishkar's expertise. That a powerful card, but it's not an end game in itself.
Yeah.
It just helps get you there.
Exactly. So I'm actually excited to see what the Philip's deck can bring to the table.
So that Ether Stream Leopard coming in as a 4-3 trampler. A Scry from Hain.
Doesn't want the swamp, so he's not missing a second black source. He's just mixing spells, I think. And we talked about the automatons being very useful. Now this is exactly the spot where you want them. The power toughness is not too impressive, but the ability really enabling you to churn through your deck.
And I think possibly a little bit better in sealed than they are in draft. Yeah. Draft typically a slightly faster format with more synergistic decks that are looking to end games quickly. That can be a bit more of a challenge in sealed, where flooding out or just having more lands than you can reasonably use is not uncommon.
Yeah, but still, even in draft, a cheap artifact creature, relatively cheap artifact creature, can be very useful if you're trying to go for improvised shenanigans, or even if you're playing like a really slow control deck. It still trades with some early creatures, and late game can really help you find your powerful cards.
Well, Shielded Ether Thief will be another way of finding powerful cards. With 3 energy in play, it can just be tapped to draw a card, and it's one of comparatively few ways in Ether Revolt to really profitably spend energy.
Yeah, and it's a great way to do it. He also has a small mini combo that I quite enjoy. He has the Aegis Automaton. He can return his Shipwreck Moray into his hand, replay the Moray to get 4 energy. You know, it's pretty High Tide Hermit. There we go. More defensive creatures that generate energy. And Philip Sommereda does have the payoff. Whoa!
Ether Theorist now up to 7 energy.
Yeah, he's popping off here with all the energy.
So he's going to be able to draw quite a few cards here with that Ether Thief if he so chooses.
So much energy. And that's going to enable him to draw cards, to play lands, to do some more tricksy stuff with Automaton maybe. I like it.
Yeah, at some point that Aegis Automaton is going to be able to bounce things without it feeling like too much of a cost. He's not quite there yet on mana, but time he does now have.
Yeah, I mean, there's a flyer on the board, and now increasing the clock significantly for Alexander Hain, because the Chief of the Foundry is going to pump up the Dukar of Pifau into a 3/5 flyer that swings in. So Philip Sommereda is on 8, meaning he will be dead in 3 swings. But now Philip can really go deep here. He has the Theorist to scry through his draws. He has the Thief to draw some extra cards. And there's an upkeep scry, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like it's a good one.
So far what we've learned is that Philip Sommereda has a deck that can dig. Yes. What we haven't quite figured out yet is what the treasures are that he's digging for.
Yeah, he can stall and dig, and okay, Monstrous Onslaught.
Well, his Moray can get pumped up to have quite a bit of power.
Just 4, and you already have the Hermit doing the same. So yeah, I think he might want to try to find something bigger here. Whoa. So he did draw a green spell. For a second I thought it's a second Rishkar's expertise, but that's actually highly unlikely, so I wonder what other card it is.
We'll see soon enough.
And he's making room for a card, rearranging his board.
Yeah, Summerrader has not really troubled Alexander Haynes' life total at all yet thus far this game.
It might have been unbridled growth as well. I really don't know. I just know it's a green card, and I really want to see it. I'm really excited about his deck because I've banned control is not an archetype we've seen for a long time, especially in limited.
These players kind of staring off here. Hayne knows that he's got the short-term advantage at least, but equally, both these players are at 5-0. They didn't just happen upon that record. We know that Hayne had 3 buys. I'm uncertain as to how many buys Philip will have started off with.
At most 2, so that means he's at least at 3-0.
So Extreme Leopard coming in. And Hayne also has a Moray, which is a perfectly fine blocker here.
I'm wondering, maybe you... Oh, okay, wrong card. Wrong card. It's a wrong card. That's Silk. He was trying to go for the Monster's Onslaught. So so he has a 4-power creature, and now he's dividing 4 damage among creatures. So he finishes off the eel and kills the Foundry, which makes the P-foul a little smaller here. I'm not sure if the life totals are exactly correct here, because it looked like I think Philip Summerrader took 3 last turn from the Dukar P-foul. It has not translated over to a changing life total, but we'll see soon enough. This is a time walk match after all.
We will. As things stand, the P-foul just continues to truck on over.
Yeah.
There we go. The life total's getting updated there. That wasn't one big swing. It was kind of 2 swings combined into it. But Summerrader now on 6.
I love his board. Like, look at his creatures. It's just a very fun collection of stuff. It is not really good at attacking, pretty good at blocking, but like he has so many energy sinks.
I mean, with Silkweaver Elite, it does have reach. That gives him a 1-turn reprieve from the Dakara P-foul.
Yeah, and you know what you can do? You can bounce your Silkweaver Elite with the Aegis Automaton and replay it and draw a card. That's
pretty nice. Of course, unfortunately, he kind of wants to be blocking with it and then bouncing it.
Yeah, he can do that too. He has to replay it on his turn, so he probably might not be able to draw a card unless he has some other Revolt enabler. He just looks like he wants to start attacking. Finally.
Is Philip Summerrader's big plan, in fact, just let this game go super long, where I've got these cool mana sinks, and I can just draw 1,000 cards? If it is, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Hayne patiently just declaring blocks here.
It looks like Philip Summerrader is out of energy now after pumping the Moray.
I know how he feels.
5 mana. Bounce. The Theorist. Replay the Theorist. Get 3 energy. I mean, that's pretty mana efficient.
Yeah, it's the cheapest way that he has of securing that amount of energy.
Yeah. And he also wanted to play a Hinterland Dragate, which is actually would be a great blocker for the Dakar P-file if it didn't say that it cannot block artifact creatures.
Yeah, it's afraid of these robot birds when it is in itself just simply a Drake.
It's just really skitterish.
Well, Alexander Haynes scrying here, and he's got a good one that he's looking at and considering very, very hard here.
Yeah, Daring Demolition.
Daring Demolition.
Boom.
No nonsense removal. Sorcery speed. He'll use all of his black mana, but
the thing is, what are you killing here? Like, I mean, that's the big problem. It's a good removal spell, but I like the whole board of Philip Summerrader. It just looks a little unimpressive to me. Maybe just kill the Aegis Automaton.
I mean, Summerrader's tapped out right now. There's no better time to do it.
I guess.
Worth noting that Alexander Hayne, on 7 energy, he's had that Deadlock Trap in play for basically the entire game. There's never really been anything that has felt worth tapping.
No. 7 energy and a Deadlock Trap. No. So what is it? I really curious what he... Okay, he's going for the Automaton. Like, he sees all the value that Philip Summerrader can generate with it. Actually, like, he played it on turn 2. and it was just sat there, but it was just presenting a big late game risk. And we talked about those mana sinks, and what a good mana sink the automaton is in this really long game.
Yeah, this, remember guys, is just game 1 of a best of 3. Hayne not in any great hurry here. Summer Raider on just 4 life now.
Okay. Ooh, ice over on the Silkweaver Elite.
Yeah, that ice over potentially sat in Alex's hand for quite a while, waiting for the opportunity to be cast without it just being blanked by Ether Automaton.
Yeah, he was sitting on a card for a long time. I think Summer Raider has... What is this? Okay. Ooh, okay. He doesn't have an endgame enriched skill Tusker, one of my favorite cards in the set, after Prophetic Prism, as we've established.
It's all right. They're in different sets. You're allowed to...
Yeah, okay, cool.
They're not going to get in each other's way.
Hey,
but
thanks, Tim.
That's a lot of +1/+1 counters all of a sudden appearing on Philip Summer Raider's side of the board. Everything apart from the beast itself. The Ridge Scale Tusker, generous in powering up the team.
Play Tusker, bounce through my Aegis Automaton, replay my Tusker.
I tell you what, the removal was right on time because this is an end game.
Yeah. The problem for Alex that his whole game plan just revolves around the P-foul just connecting enough times to win the game, but Philip Summer Raider just made his board so big that it actually might be tough for Alex to hold on to get those 2 attacks.
It's amazing how much the board changed with that one card. Previously it was sort of a bit of a dicey race, but now we have all sorts going on. Even that shielded Ether Thief having a little bit of a think about this. It does not have Defender, it's just that it naturally has 0 power, so...
It's like Spellskite, you know?
Yeah.
It can always attack, and people have attacked with it plenty of times.
Get under that bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
So Hayne dropping single digits and looking in a far more precarious spot than he was mere moments ago. Draws to the turn.
Didn't scry in the upkeep with the automaton, but I think he did draw a spell. So Summer down to 2.
That much we knew was going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. That's a blocker. Yes, I think with the creature, I think Alex should be safe to survive this turn.
Yeah, effectively he has 4 blockers because the Deadlock Trap is going to keep something on ice.
Yeah, probably the Tusker. Because it is still the biggest creature on the board. Problem with Philip was using so much energy through the Shield Ether Thief drawing or the Ether Scrying that I don't think he has enough energy to attack with the High Tide Hermit and use the Ether Stream Leopard and pump Shipwreck Moray. So he will have to decide how he wants to spend his energy, the little that he has, and it just might not be enough.
I mean, he's in that spot where his back's against the wall. He knows that there are 2 flyers and he can only deal with one of them. Shows 2 lands in hand, and that was an epic game 1.
It was a really good game. Alex had a plan from turn 4 onwards and just executed on it, and Philip Summer could just never deal with it. Philip's deck is hilarious to me. And
it's fancy.
Yeah, and I hope he sideboarded at least something, because he just doesn't need that many defensive creatures against Alex's deck.
Well, we're going to get a chance to see how this game 2 goes. The beauty of Time Walk matches, we managed to skip past the sideboarding, so we're right back into gameplay, and let's see who gets the first threats on the board for the second game.
Yeah, the thing is that I even think that Philip Summer Raider's mana base is fairly wild, just because he has quite a few blue cards, and even the white, so... Okay, this looks very familiar. Philip already has the perfect mana ready, just no plays.
It would be hard to describe Alexander Hayne's mana as perfect right now. Just black mana to begin with. There's a Shipwreck Moray for Philip Summer Raider, 4 energy. And Island finally picked up for Alexander Hayne. So most of his deck now online.
Ooh, Untethered Express. I love that card. But Alex needs a creature. But I don't think it will be a problem now that he has found the island. Let's see if Philip can put some more pressure. Is the Hermit or Tusker? Okay, sweet.
Well, this one way that you get to keep attacking in.
Yeah, I think Alex can take, definitely can take one hit from the Moray.
The extra +1/+1 counter.
3 damager.
Not going to hurt.
Yeah.
Not too much anyway.
It's
Untethered
nice.
Express, literally, well, any creature with power is going to be able to crew it, and it can attack in for quite a bit, but at least Sumo Raider here has a card that can reasonably block, but uh-oh. This was the one that ended it all in game 1. Immediately jumps in the train and gets on in.
Yeah, the train now, it is a 4/4 vehicle, but when it attacks, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and Philip Sumer just doesn't want to trade the Tusker in. It's actually going to be problematic on the following turn, because now Alex can tap down the Tusker, and even if the Moray stays at home, it will not be able to deal with a 6/6 Express, so let's see if Sumer can do something with 6 mana here.
Yeah, Untethered Express is the exact example of a problem that if you don't deal with it early, it only gets worse.
But he's attacking. Again with the Moray swinging for 3, it looks like he's going to go for Cotton Brights, which is not that great on this board. You can play it on the Dukara P-Foul, but it can still crew vehicles.
Yeah, caught in the Brights. I think that it's very easy on the face of things to look at it as being very, very similar to, or maybe even better than, Revoked Privileges. But the fact that you can still crew vehicles gets messy.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It just seems so innocuous, but in this limited format, just not being able to crew vehicles is so important. And as you can see here, if that was a Revoked Privileges, the Untethered Express wouldn't be able to attack, and Philip Sumer would be in great shape. But now he has to take 6 damage. Jeez. And it looks like Alex still has plenty of cards in his hand. And knowing him, he won't have trouble identifying a very good game plan going forward.
So not missing any land drops. That's step 1 to doing well in limited. And
Vengeful Rebel.
yeah, not a good sign when Vengeful Rebel is simply being cast as a 3/2 because it has one of the most powerful revolt triggers in the entirety of Aether Revolt. -3/-3 to a creature if you've had a permanent leave the battlefield that turn. In this case, though, a 3/2, good enough.
Yeah. I think Philip found a solution for the Express in a pacification array. A card that it seems like everyone has it from the matches we've covered or that we've seen.
We are covering people that are winning, it must be said.
That's true.
We may have found a little correlation there.
Well, correlation doesn't imply causation always, right?
Not always, but in this case, I think we can potentially infer something.
That's true. And the card's been doing great work, and as you can see, you know what? I'm not even surprised because it fits into Philip's deck. We've seen his deck is super defensive, and yeah, pacification area, one more way to deal with a creature.
Yeah, Sumo Raider on 9, but at least for now, pumping the brakes. And we see the respect there from Hayne. Doesn't even try and crew his vehicle, just gets stuck in with the Vengeful Rebel.
And Philip's like, yeah. Did he just take the 3? Or he might just said block with my Moray. We can't really judge that.
Looks like it was a block there.
Yeah. Alex is out of energy, so Deadlock Trap is potentially problematic. Ooh, that's a game plan.
Yeah, if you're looking for... We were saying there must be something that you can play in the late game that's going to be big in this deck that seems super defensive. Walking Ballista.
Boom.
Kept a couple of mana up, which potentially signals some kind of a trick. Pacification array in this case. But that Ballista, it's got the potential to get quite a bit bigger. And in the meantime, it is a machine gun for creatures coming from Hayne.
Yeah, and look at how much mana Philip's. He's like, here's 4, here's 3, then it's 2 for array. Dang it, I need 1 more to double pump my Ballista. It actually can be a win condition, but Philip is just attacking with everything. I like this attack. Yeah, this actually could be lethal. Yeah, he has to block the Ballista. Let's counter on it. Okay, and then it almost seemed like he's passing, but I think he's gonna pump up the creatures. That's 8 damage. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna have that resolve, go to 1, and then it's like go. Yeah, it's like playing around with the dice on the Walking Ballista when you're 1 is like not a good sign.
Alrighty, we're going to be going to a game 3 after game 1, super long game, looked pretty tight. Game 2, Summerrader bouncing back with just a fantastic assault. Let's see what can happen in game 3, the decider here between Alexander Hayne on the left of our screen and Philip Summerrader.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Philip can really make use out of his mana. That seems for sure. So I'm not surprised about his this whole defensive setup. And let's so we can get the game 3 to work. And remember, this is a time walk match, so it has already happened. But we're trying to show you as much magic as possible because we like it as much as you do. Okay, that was a little too forward. There we go. Yeah, we got it.
Perfecto. All right, so let's see what we're going to have. This time round, Alexander Hayne having the option of play or draw, having lost in the second game. Looks like there's been a mulligan there, has Scry to the bottom, but kicks things off with a swamp. And on the other side of things, yeah, we've got lands and spells on both sides, or at least lands.
Spells, 2. This 1.
Pacification Array, we know it, we like it. There's Vengeful Rebel. A lot of discipline in casting this without Revolt. I think that sometimes with the cards with powerful Revolt effects, it can be very tempting to hold on to them and wait to get maximum value, but sometimes you just need a body on the ground. Skyweller's shot dealing with that one, but there is a replacement for Alexander Hayne. He's got a 2/2 flyer in the air now, and it's going to be facing off against Ether Herder from Philip Summerrader. 3/3 that with some energy can make a few extra 1/1s.
Yeah, no, it's a second Revolt creature from Alexander Hayne's deck, and we've seen actually it's not that easy to trigger Revolt in blue-black. You don't have that many easy ways to do it, and your opponent can play around them nicely, at least some of them. So yeah, the Vengeful Rebel seems like it's a very powerful card on the surface, but it's much easier when you can build your deck around it rather than in Silver where you get it. But it's still a 3-mana 3/2.
Well, Hayne still has a few answers here in terms of making sure that his opponents can't just get stuck in for nothing. Aether Meltdown there, able to deal with all of the points of power coming over from Ether Herder. Is that a flavor win? I think it might be.
Yeah, it is a flavor win.
Ether Herder picking up all of the ether, but then ultimately the ether melting down and causing a bit of an accident.
He has nothing to hurt anymore.
Shipwreck Moray coming from Alexander Hayne. Loads of energy all of a sudden. Still no artifact for that Dund Operative that he has in play though.
Yeah, and not that many ways to use energy apart from Moray. I mean, he did mulligan. It seems like his deck is just, he put together the best cards that blue and black had to offer, and there's some synergy, but it's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, synergy is something we've been talking about a lot all day. Ultimately, that is where much of the power in this format seems to come from. It's not simply about having one bomb, it's about having cards that work well together. Pacification Array dealing with one of Alexander Hayne's creatures, but still getting stuck in with the others.
Yep, and Moray hits for 4 here.
Summerrader happy to let the Moray get stuck in because at least it uses energy, but a big negate there from Philip Summerrader, meaning that Ice Over unable to keep that Pacification Array from untapping.
Yeah, negate probably sideboarded in because I would assume Philip Summerrader just took out some of his defensive creatures and put in something like negate to counteract some of the more powerful spells in Alex's deck. And it worked to perfection here. Even though I think negate is a card you can main deck in the sealed format, but you also need a very specific deck for it.
Summerrader again happy to let the Moray hit in because at least it's using up energy. And ooh, a decommission meets another piece of counter magic.
I think it's dismal failure? No, failed inspection rather.
So a loot on top of counter magic there for Alexander Hayne, and in each case the counter spells have been a very big deal here.
Yeah, they're just trading blows here with those counter spells. So let's see how Philip can use. There's plenty of mana. I see a Rich Scale Tusker. I see an Ether Swooper. The Philip's falling behind on the board, so ideally he would have loved to play the Ether Swooper first. Oh, but he also has a Ballista.
So a 2/2 for now.
Yep.
We know that he has a way of making it bigger in hand, though.
Indeed. It's a neat combo. He probably wants to draw a land so that he can play Tusker and still be able to use his array. And now Alex will have to spend some mana to kill the servo that's blocking here.
So down to just the one energy now, Alexander Hayne. It seemed like he had so much just a few turns ago.
And just it seems like he's out of cards here with Sumer down to 8. I don't think he drew a line. I think he has a Rishkar's expertise. I think he's going to try to save up for a big turn with that Rich Scale Tusker maybe. Okay.
And the pacification array is kind of costing him mana here. Each turn he does need it to keep his life total alive, but that means that he's effectively got 2 fewer lands to work with.
Indeed. Let's have an Ether Swooper here, at least. Another card which I quite like. Okay, not using the pacification area here.
Interesting stuff, signaling he must have something going on.
Ooh, leaving the dust on the Walking Ballista. And now is decision time, because Philip Sumer can sacrifice it.
So he puts a counter on.
Yeah, okay, doesn't have to. So he puts a counter on, shoots the done operative, and then, okay.
So it puts 1 point on the other flyer, which means that he's able to at least narrow down the amount of creatures on the battlefield. And here it comes, 5 mana.
Big old Tusk.
Big old Tusk, no friends to give +1/+1 counters to. The big friendly armadillo, no friends, but still the biggest creature on the battlefield right now, and 2 mana left up for pacification array.
Yeah, and he now has the Rishkar's expertise. Yeah, he swings.
And now it's the draw 5, find something cool to cast.
He already has something cool. I think he has the High Tide Hermit in his hand. I mean, you would think that you want to try to maximize the Rich Scale Tusker to get as many counters as you can on your other creatures, but getting into play a 5/5 into play and then drawing 6 cards is nice.
So there we have the automaton coming down. There'll be some scrying in the future for Alexander Hayne if he can figure out a way of dealing with the fact that there's some suddenly pretty hefty creatures on the battlefield for Summer Raider.
Yeah. I like scrying, digging.
This has been quite the match. I'm very happy that we got a chance to catch this one on camera.
Good one. I think Philip is going to take it home now. Hinterland Ether Theory, he's just flooding the board. I don't think there's a card that could help Alex get out of this particular situation.
It's amazing how drawing 5 cards and then playing a spell for free can turn a game around, right?
Not really, no.
And there's the handshake. Philip Summer Raider, bit of a pump of the fist there for him.
Yeah, what an upset.
Yeah, I think that, looking at the start of looking at game 1, we could see that there was potential in the deck for Philip Summer Raider, but it took a little bit of time to get realized, but a big win for him over Alex Hayne. He is now 6-0 here at GP Prague.
Yeah, great effort from him, and I like this deck. It looked a bit unconventional in the first game, but it really had a way to win the long game, and against his deck, it just seemed like he was well positioned.
Well, we're potentially going to get a chance to see more from him and indeed from Alex Hayne in future rounds, because we do have still some rounds to go here at GP Prague. We'll be back to them soon enough, but first we're going to take a short break.